The Grand Chamber of the Imperial Council fell silent as the massive holographic projection materialized. The human delegation, led by Admiral Park Ji-ho, stood unwavering before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "You were warned," Admiral Park stated flatly. 23 Earth years ago, your forces decimated our cities. Seoul, Busan, New York, London, all reduced to ash as your demonstration. You expected submission. Instead, we rebuilt in secret. Emperor Loth shifted uncomfortably on his crystalline throne. "Admiral, surely there's been some misunderstanding. The Empire embraces peaceful." "Spare me," Park interrupted. "Our fleet has bypassed your outer defenses. We control your communication relays. You have 48 hours to surrender those responsible for the Earth attacks, or we demonstrate our own capabilities." In his private chambers, Imperial diplomat Kim Ta-won reviewed the classified files. What the humans claimed was impossible. Their technology had been primitive. Yet the scanners confirmed thousands of vessels at the edge of Imperial space, each more advanced than anything in the Imperial fleet. "How?" he whispered, memories of his grandfather's stories about a distant blue world rising unbidden. Kim's hands shook as he closed the file. The images stayed in his mind. Massive human ships, their hulls gleaming with strange metals not known to Imperial science. The scans showed weapons systems that defied analysis. He had to know more. He slipped through the quiet halls of the Imperial Palace. At this late hour, only guards remained alert, but Kim knew the paths to avoid them. His security clearance granted him access to the old archives, a place few diplomats bothered to visit. The archive door hissed open. Dust floated in the air. Kim moved to the terminal and entered his search. Earth. First contact. The screen filled with data. Kim read quickly, his eyes growing wider. 23 years ago, an Imperial survey team had found Earth. Reports described humans as primitive but resourceful. The Empire had followed standard procedure for new species, a show of force to establish dominance, then integration into the Empire as a labor world. But something had gone wrong. The demonstration strikes, meant to destroy only military targets, had hit major cities instead. Millions died. The Empire declared Earth subdued and moved on to other conquests. "This can't be all," Kim muttered. He dug deeper, using access codes that belonged to his mentor. New files appeared, classified military reports. Kim's breath caught in his throat. The strikes weren't accidents. General Dahl had ordered the cities destroyed on purpose. "Make an example of them," the order read. "These humans show unusual resistance to Imperial authority." Kim scrolled further. The final report stated, "Earth neutralized. Remaining human population scattered and powerless. Planet scheduled for resource extraction in 30 years when radiation levels decrease." The Empire had walked away, believing humans broken and defeated. They were wrong. A noise made Kim turn. 2 Imperial guards stood in the doorway, weapons drawn. "Diplomat Kim," one said, "the Emperor requests your presence." Immediately, Kim was escorted back to the Grand Chamber. It was empty now except for Emperor Loth and his inner circle. The Emperor's many eyes fixed on Kim. "You accessed classified files about Earth," the Emperor said. "Why?" Kim bowed. "Your Majesty, I sought to understand the human claims, if they speak truth." "Truth," General Dole interrupted. He was old now, but still powerful in the military. "These humans lie. Their ships are probably empty shells, meant to frighten us." "The readings suggest otherwise," said Science Minister Pell. "Their energy signatures exceed our most advanced destroyers." Emperor Loth raised a hand for silence. "Kim, your grandfather served on Earth, did he not?" "Yes, Your Majesty. He was part of the diplomatic team before the demonstration." "And what did he tell you about humans?" Kim hesitated. "He said they were different from other species we've encountered. More adaptable, more determined. He warned that they would not forget what happened to them. General Dole laughed. Superstitious nonsense. I personally oversaw the attack. They had nothing that could stand against us. That was 23 years ago, Kim said quietly. The chamber doors opened. A junior officer rushed in, bowing hastily. Your Majesty. The human fleet has moved. They've bypassed our outer defense grid without firing a shot. Our weapons couldn't lock onto them. The room erupted in worried voices. Emperor Loth stood, his crystalline body reflecting the light. Send a message to Admiral Park, he commanded. Tell him I wish to speak again. Kim returned to his quarters but couldn't sleep. From his window, he could see the night sky of the Imperial capital. Somewhere up there, human ships waited. Ships that shouldn't exist. His communication panel beeped. An encrypted message from Admiral Park himself. Diplomat Kim, the message read. Your grandfather spoke highly of you before he died. He believed you were different from the others. If you wish to prevent bloodshed, meet my representative at the old temple at dawn. Kim stared at the message. How did they know about his grandfather? What did they want from him? As the first light of dawn touched the city, Kim slipped out wearing simple clothes. The old temple sat abandoned on the edge of the capital, a relic from before the Empire. A human woman waited there, dressed in Imperial fashion. She looked at Kim with steady eyes. My name is Officer Ba Sunmei, she said in perfect Imperial language. I've been living among you for 7 years. Kim's mind raced. A human spy, here on the capital world. Impossible. Yet here she stood. How many others? He asked. Enough, she replied. We needed to understand you before we revealed ourselves. Why contact me? Sunma studied him. Because you seek truth, not power. The Empire attacked Earth unprovoked. Millions died. But we don't want revenge on all Imperial citizens, only justice for those responsible. She handed him a small device. This contains proof of who ordered the attack and why. Earth had something they wanted. A rare element your scientists haven't discovered yet. One that makes our new ships possible. Kim took the device. What happens when the 48 hours end? Sunma's expression grew sad. That depends on your emperor. We hope for justice. We're prepared for war. She turned to leave. Choose wisely, Diplomat Kim. Your people need never know how close they came to destruction. Captain Lee Do-hyun piloted his scout vessel past the wreckage of what had been the Empire's first response fleet. No casualties. The human strategy had merely disabled their systems. Impressive restraint, observed Science Officer Yoon Hae-yun, analyzing the data. We could have destroyed them entirely. That's not our purpose, Lee replied. Not yet, anyway. On the Imperial capital, Kim Ta-won had discovered disturbing information. The attack on Earth hadn't been sanctioned by the full council. A faction led by General Mox had orchestrated it, hoping to secure Earth's rare mineral deposits without Imperial oversight. The humans weren't supposed to survive, let alone advance, Kim told his superior, who dismissed his concerns. They're bluffing. Their ships are probably hollow shells, the superior stated. Hours later, every defense system across 3 Imperial sectors simultaneously failed. Captain Lee watched the Imperial ships drift helplessly through space. Their engines had shut down. Life support remained active, but weapons, shields, and communications were dead. Lee's small scout vessel moved freely among them, recording everything. Empire Command Ship Dominator now approaching, reported Navigator Kang. It's the biggest one yet. Lee nodded. Let's get closer. Their scout ship, the Swift Wind, slipped past the massive Imperial vessel. Once feared throughout the galaxy, the Dominator now floated powerless. Through the view screens, Lee could see confused Imperial officers rushing about. Send the message, Lee ordered. Officer Yoon pressed a button. On every Imperial ship, the same message appeared. Your systems will restart in 12 hours. Return to your home ports. This is a demonstration, not an attack. Next time, We may not be so merciful. Lee steered the swift wind away from the disabled fleet. His mission was complete. The humans had shown they could neutralize Imperial forces without bloodshed. "Captain," said Officer Yoon, looking at her scanner. "We're being followed." Lee checked his own screen. A small Imperial shuttle had managed to start its emergency engines. It was following them at a distance. "Should we disable it?" asked Weapons Officer Choi. Lee studied the shuttle's path. "No. Let's see what they want." The shuttle sent a message. "Human vessel. Request permission to speak. Carrying important information." "It could be a trap," warned Choi. "With what weapons?" asked Lee. "Scan them." The scan showed 2 passengers, no weapons. Lee decided to take a chance. Allow them to dock. When the airlock opened, 2 Imperial officials stepped cautiously onto the swift wind. One was clearly military, wearing a captain's uniform. The other was civilian. "I am Captain Jal," said the military one. "This is Data Analyst Nam." Lee nodded. "Why follow us?" Nam stepped forward. "Because we have information about what really happened on Earth." In Nam's hand was a small data crystal. "I worked in the historical archives. When your fleet arrived, I pulled these files. They're going to be deleted soon." Lee led them to the ship's meeting room. Officer Yoon inserted the crystal into their reader. Images appeared on the screen. Earth, 23 years ago. The files showed Imperial ships approaching Earth. Early diplomatic meetings between humans and Imperials. Then records of a secret meeting. General Mox speaking to a group of wealthy mine owners. "Earth has deposits of element 310, Mox said in the recording. "More than we've seen anywhere else. If we follow standard protocol, the Emperor will claim it all. But if Earth is deemed hostile and requires special handling." The mine owners understood. They would get exclusive rights to Earth's resources if the planet was destroyed as a security threat. The next files showed Imperial gunships targeting Earth's major cities. Not military bases, civilian centers. 20 million dead in the first day, Nam said quietly. All for mining rights. Captain Jal spoke up. "I was a junior officer when it happened. They told us we were firing on military targets. By the time we learned the truth, it was too late." Lee's face remained calm, but his hands tightened into fists. "And now, General Mox commands the Imperial Third Fleet," said Nam. "He's preparing to attack your forces against the Emperor's orders. He can't allow the truth to come out." On the Imperial capital, Kim Ta-won hurried through crowded streets. People rushed in all directions. News of the disabled defense systems had spread panic. Kim reached the council building and found chaos. Officials shouted at each other. Military officers demanded action. The Emperor had called an emergency session. Kim's superior, Minister Leo, grabbed his arm. "Where have you been? The humans have attacked." "No," Kim corrected. "They disabled systems. No one died." "Same thing." Lao snapped. "General Mox is calling for immediate retaliation." Kim followed Lao into the council chamber. The Emperor sat on his throne, surrounded by advisors. General Mox stood before them, pointing at a holographic map. "We must strike now," Mox insisted, "while we still can." "With what?" asked the science minister. "Our ships are disabled." "Not all of them," Mox replied. "My third fleet was outside the affected sectors. We can launch immediately." Kim stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I have information about the original Earth attack." General Mox turned sharply. "This is not the time for history lessons, diplomat." "It is exactly the time," Kim insisted. He handed a data pad to the Emperor. "These are records showing General Mox ordered the civilian strikes on Earth. He conspired with mining corporations to declare Earth hostile so they could claim its resources." The room fell silent. The Emperor reviewed the data, his crystalline face unreadable. "These records were sealed," Mox said, his voice dangerous. "How did you access them?" "I didn't," Kim replied. "The humans did. They had spies among us for years. General Mox laughed, but it sounded hollow. Ridiculous. These are forgeries. A new voice spoke from the doorway. They are not forgeries. Everyone turned. Captain Jal stood there, escorted by Imperial guards. Captain, Mox said, return to your post immediately. I cannot, Jal replied. He approached the Emperor and bowed. Your Majesty, I served during the Earth attack. I witnessed General Mox's orders firsthand. The targets were always civilian centers. Back on the swift wind, Lee received a message from Admiral Park, 3rd Imperial Fleet preparing to launch. Intercept, but do not engage. Demonstration protocol only. Lee understood. The humans would show their power once more, but still avoid bloodshed if possible. Set course for the 3rd Fleet staging area, he ordered. Maximum speed. Yoon looked concerned. Captain, that's a full battle fleet. Our scout ship can't. We're not going alone, Lee said with a small smile. As the swift wind raced toward the Imperial 3rd Fleet, space behind them seemed to shimmer. Suddenly, 50 human warships appeared, as if stepping out of nowhere. Cloaking technology, Officer Choi whispered in awe. It actually works. Lee nodded. 23 years of preparation. Let's hope we don't need to use everything we've developed. The human fleet moved silently toward what could be the first battle of a new war, or perhaps the last chance for peace. This is what we know, Admiral Park said, projecting evidence of the conspiracy. 7 members of your high command authorized the attack on Earth, expecting to claim our resources once we were reduced to a pre-industrial state. Emperor Loth's multifaceted eyes narrowed. These accusations are documented in your own archives, interrupted Commander Han Ji-min, pushing forward data crystals. Our intelligence agents have been embedded in your systems for years. From his position at the back of the chamber, Kim Ta-won watched the Emperor's composure crumble. Other species representatives had begun to whisper among themselves. Later, in a secure meeting room, Kim approached Commander Han. Not all of us knew. Some of us would have prevented it. Han studied him. Then help us prevent what comes next. The grand negotiation chamber had been prepared with care. Ancient tapestries depicting the rise of the empire hung on walls of polished stone. The long table in the center was carved from a single piece of rare wood from a distant world. On one side sat the Imperial delegation, led by Emperor Loth himself. On the other side, the humans. Kim stood behind the Emperor, alongside other advisors. His role was small but important, to observe and suggest, when asked. Across from him, Commander Han stood behind Admiral Park. Their eyes met briefly. A silent understanding passed between them. Let us be clear, Admiral Park continued. We have identified 7 conspirators who planned and executed the attack on Earth. We want them surrendered for trial. General Mox, seated to the Emperor's right, shifted uncomfortably. His hand moved to his ceremonial dagger, a nervous gesture. What proof do you offer beyond these stolen files? Asked Minister Lau. Commander Han touched a small device. A hologram appeared above the table, a recording from 23 years ago. It showed General Mox and 6 other officials in a private meeting room. Once the major cities are destroyed, Mox said in the recording, resistance will collapse. We can then harvest element 310 without Imperial oversight. The official report will show only that we responded to human aggression. One of the other conspirators spoke, and if survivors tell a different story. There won't be enough survivors to matter, Mox replied coldly. The recording ended. Silence filled the chamber. That recording is fake, Mox said, but his voice lacked conviction. We have 15 more, responded Han calmly, plus testimony from Imperial officers who carried out your orders. Emperor Loth turned his crystalline face toward Mox. Is this true, General? Before Mox could answer, the doors burst open. Captain Jal entered with 2 guards. Behind them walked Captain Lee and Officer Yoon from the Swift Wind. Your Majesty, Jal bowed. I apologize for the interruption, But these humans have brought someone you must hear. A small, bent figure shuffled in. An elderly human woman, her face marked with old burn scars. "This is Song Minji," Captain Lee said. "She was a child in Busan when your ships attacked." Minji looked around the room, her eyes finally settling on General Mox. "I remember your face from the broadcasts," she said quietly. "You told us you came in peace. The next day, your ships burned my city." General Mox stood abruptly. "This is absurd. Why would we waste time with negotiations when these humans clearly mean to destroy us? Their fleet surrounds our capital. Our fleet has fired not a single shot." Admiral Park said, "Unlike yours." The chamber erupted in arguments. Different species representatives shouted questions. Imperial officers defended their honor. Through it all, Emperor Loth remained silent, watching. Finally, he raised his hand. The room quieted. "Admiral Park," the Emperor said, "what exactly do you want?" Park stood straight. "Justice for Earth. The 7 conspirators to face trial. Reparations for the damage done. And guarantees it will never happen again." "And if we refuse?" Park's face showed no emotion. "Then we will be forced to demonstrate the full extent of our capabilities." In the tense silence that followed, a small commotion began at the back of the room. Representatives from the fringe worlds, planets that had been conquered by the Empire generations ago, were pushing forward. "Your Majesty," said one, a tall being with purple skin, "if what the humans say is true, how many other worlds have suffered similar fates? How many other demonstrations have there been?" Other representatives joined in. Stories of imperial cruelty began to emerge. Planets stripped of resources, species enslaved, all done in the name of imperial expansion. Kim watched the Emperor's face. For the first time in his long service, Kim saw doubt in those alien eyes. Later, in the small meeting room, Kim faced Commander Han. Through the window, they could see the Imperial capital glittering below. Above, barely visible in the daylight sky, hung the human fleet. "The Emperor is considering their demands," Kim said. "But General Mox has loyal supporters. He's gathering his forces." Han nodded. "We know." Admiral Park anticipated this. "There will be bloodshed if Mox attacks." "Yes," Han agreed. "Which is why we need your help." Han explained the plan. Kim listened carefully, his eyes growing wider. "That would require access to the Imperial Defense Network. Only the highest officials have that." "We know you can get it," Han said simply. Kim was silent for a long moment. "If I help you, what happens to the Empire?" "That depends on the Emperor. If he chooses justice, the Empire will survive, though changed. If he chooses war," Han didn't finish the sentence. "And my people, the ordinary citizens who knew nothing of Earth, they will be protected," Han promised. "We're not here for vengeance, only justice." Kim thought of his grandfather, who had told him stories of the blue world called Earth, of kind people who had welcomed Imperial visitors, of the horror when the attacks began. "What must I do?" he asked. In his private, among the crowd walked Kim Ta-won, his face hidden under a simple hood. He moved carefully, watching for signs of trouble. His communicator, disguised as a common wristband, vibrated softly. A message from Commander Han. Mox escaped custody, moving to secondary plan. Kim frowned. General Mox was dangerous, especially now. As head of the Third Fleet, he commanded loyal soldiers who might still follow his orders. Kim sent a quick reply. "Understood." Proceeding to checkpoint. Across the city, Captain Lee and Officer Yoon moved through a market in civilian clothes. They looked like ordinary shoppers, but their eyes missed nothing. "There," Yoon whispered, nodding toward a side street. 3 Imperial officers hurried past, looking over their shoulders. Lee touched his earpiece. "Target spotted moving east on Commerce Street. 3 escorts." "Confirmed," came Admiral Park's voice. "Do not engage. Track only." Lee and Yoon followed at a distance, The Imperial officers led them to a small transport pad where a shuttle waited. General Mox emerged from a doorway, now dressed in civilian clothes. "He's trying to escape the planet," Yoon said quietly. Lee nodded. "Relay coordinates to the Daejeon." High above, on the command ship Daejeon, Admiral Park received the information. He turned to his tactical officer. "Can we disable that shuttle without harming the surrounding area?" "Yes, Admiral. Targeted EMP ready." Park hesitated. Original orders had been clear: capture or kill all 7 conspirators. But something had changed in him during these days of negotiation. The sight of ordinary Imperial citizens protesting on behalf of Earth had moved him. "Hold fire," Park decided. "Alert Imperial security forces to his location. Let them handle this." His communications officer looked surprised. "Sir, this is their world," Park explained. "Let them enforce their own justice." On the surface, Kim received new orders. He changed direction, moving quickly through back streets toward the transport pad. He arrived just as General Mox was boarding his shuttle. "General Mox," Kim called out. The general turned, his hand moving to a hidden weapon. "Diplomat Kim, come to see me off." "You can't escape," Kim said, stepping closer. "The humans track your every move." Mox smiled coldly. "The humans are fools. They could have destroyed us on day 1. Instead, they talk while I gather my forces." "What forces?" Kim asked. 3 systems have already declared independence. More will follow." "Let them," Mox sneered. "The true empire will remain. Those loyal to our strength." "Your strength?" Kim shook his head. "You attacked a peaceful world, killed millions of innocents, all for profit." Mox's face darkened. "For the empire. Earth had resources we needed." "Resources you needed," Kim corrected. "The empire didn't authorize those attacks." A crowd began to gather, drawn by the confrontation. Among them were beings from many worlds, including several wearing Imperial military uniforms. Mox noticed them and raised his voice. "The Empire has stood for 1,000 years because we take what we need. These humans think they can change that with their fancy ships and technology. But true Imperial citizens know our rightful place is to rule." A low murmur ran through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked uncertain. Kim saw his chance. Is ruling the same as destroying cities full of children? His Imperial strength measured in innocent blood. "Casualties of progress," Mox dismissed with a wave of his hand. "Show them," Kim said loudly, looking up at the sky. "Show them what you did." As if on cue, large holographic images appeared in the air above the transport pad. The images showed Imperial ships firing on Earth cities, buildings collapsing, people running in terror. Then came recorded orders in Mox's own voice. "Target population centers first. Maximum casualties will ensure compliance." The crowd gasped. Imperial officers looked at General Mox with new eyes filled with disgust. "Lies," Mox shouted, drawing his weapon. "Human tricks." Before he could fire, 3 Imperial officers tackled him from behind. The weapon skittered across the ground. "General Mox," said the ranking officer, "by order of Emperor Loth, you are under arrest for crimes against the Empire and the people of Earth." As they dragged Mox away, he locked eyes with Kim. "Traitor," he spat. "No," Kim replied calmly. "I'm loyal to the principles the Empire claims to uphold." The crowd dispersed slowly, talking in hushed voices about what they had seen. The images continued to play, now showing all 7 conspirators in their secret meeting, planning Earth's destruction. Kim's communicator vibrated. Commander Han's voice came through. "Well done. The last conspirator is in custody." "What happens now?" Kim asked. "That depends on your Emperor," Han replied. Admiral Park awaits his decision. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Loth sat alone in his meditation chamber. Reports came to him constantly. More systems declaring independence, protests in the streets, military units refusing orders. The Empire was falling apart around him. A soft chime announced a visitor. Admiral Park entered and bowed slightly. "Your Majesty," Park said, "all 7 conspirators are now in custody." The Emperor's crystalline form shifted slightly. "So I hear. And now you will take them for your human justice." "If that is your decision," Park replied, "or you may try them under Imperial law. Either way, Earth must see justice done." "And then, will your fleet leave our space?" Admiral Park moved to the window. Outside, the blue glow of the resonance field shimmered across the city. "That depends on what kind of empire remains," Park said. "The old empire of conquest and oppression cannot stand. But perhaps a new empire, one of cooperation and respect, could find a place among the stars." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. 23 years ago, we thought humans were weak. We were wrong." "Not weak," Park agreed, "just patient." Later, on the Daejeon, Admiral Park met with his officers. Captain Lee and Officer Yoon had returned from the surface. "The resonance field is working perfectly," Yoon reported. "All military systems are disabled, but civilian services continue." "And the conspirators?" Park asked. "All 7 are in Imperial custody," Lee answered. "Emperor Loth has announced public trials to begin tomorrow." Park nodded, satisfied. "Then we wait. This must be their choice." "And if they choose wrongly?" asked his tactical officer. Admiral Park looked out at the Imperial capital below. 23 years of planning, building ships, developing weapons, all for this moment. Yet now, on the edge of victory, he found himself hoping for peace. "They won't," Park said quietly. "They've seen our power. More importantly, they've seen our restraint." The assembled representatives of 87 worlds watched as Admiral Park stepped forward. The expected announcement of Earth's retribution against the Empire had drawn billions of viewers across the galaxy. "Today marks the end of the Galactic Empire," Park declared, "and the beginning of the Galactic Confederation." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Humanity did not come to destroy, but to rebuild. The architects of tyranny have been removed. Now all worlds will have equal voice. Kim Ta-won, appointed transition coordinator, worked tirelessly with Commander Han to establish the new government. Species that had suffered under Imperial rule found themselves with representation for the first time. 6 months later, Admiral Park stood on the observation deck of the Daejeon, orbiting Earth. Below, the rebuilt cities shimmered like jewels. "Was it worth the wait?" asked Captain Lee, joining him. 23 years preparing for revenge," Park mused, "only to discover something better. Justice without vengeance, and strength without tyranny," Park added, watching as ships from dozens of worlds entered Earth's orbit, bringing diplomats to the new galactic capital. "Perhaps that's humanity's true power." The Grand Assembly Hall stood on what was once the Imperial Palace grounds. Its walls were made of materials from 87 worlds. The ceiling showed the stars as seen from Earth. Light from the system's sun filled the room as Admiral Park finished his speech. No one moved. No one spoke. The shock was too great. The gathered representatives had expected demands for surrender, perhaps even the destruction of the Imperial homeworld. Instead, they heard an offer of peace. Emperor Loth rose from his seat. His crystalline body caught the light, sending rainbows across the hall. "You have the power to destroy us," he said. "Why don't you use it?" Admiral Park looked at the Emperor. "Because then we would become what we hate." The Emperor considered this. "The conspirators who attacked Earth have been tried and punished under Imperial law. What more do you want?" "A new beginning," Park replied. "A galaxy where all species have equal rights, where no world fears destruction for its resources." A representative from a small outer world stood up. Her people had been among the first conquered by the Empire centuries ago. "How can we trust this?" she asked. "Humans might become the new tyrants." "A fair question," Park nodded. "That is why humans will hold just one seat on the council. equal to all others. We will share our technology with all member worlds, and Earth will serve as the capital only until another is chosen by vote. The assembly broke into excited discussion. Species that had been enemies for generations now talked of possibilities. Worlds that had suffered under Imperial rule saw hope for the first time. Kim watched from his place near the back of the hall. Commander Han stood beside him. "Do you think it will work?" Kim asked quietly. Han smiled. "It already is. Look at them." Throughout the hall, representatives were standing, raising their hands or tentacles or wings in support. The vote was not even needed. The Galactic Confederation was born in that moment of unity. In the days that followed, Kim found himself busier than ever. As transition coordinator, he worked with representatives from all worlds to create the new government. Every species had different needs, different concerns. Some wanted revenge against former Imperial officials. Others feared chaos without Imperial control. Balance. Kim told a group of worried representatives, "We must find balance between justice and mercy." Commander Han often worked beside him. At first, their relationship was formal. But as the days passed, they developed a friendship built on mutual respect. "Your people have surprised us," Kim said one evening as they reviewed plans for the new council chambers. "We thought you would destroy us." Han looked up from her work. "Many wanted to. Admiral Park had to fight hard to convince our leaders that peace was better than revenge." "What changed his mind?" Kim asked. "After 23 years of planning war, why choose peace?" Han was quiet for a moment. There was a day early in the negotiations when he saw children playing in the Imperial capital. Children of different species, playing together despite their differences. He said it reminded him of what we were fighting for. The trial of the 7 conspirators was broadcast across the galaxy. General Mox and his allies showed no remorse. They spoke of Imperial glory and human weakness, but the evidence against them was clear. In the end, they were sentenced to life imprisonment on a distant mining world, one they had once exploited. Kim attended the final day of the trial. As Mox was led away, their eyes met one last time. The general's face showed only hatred. Kim felt only pity. Outside the courtroom, Admiral Park waited. "A just result," he said as Kim approached. "Not vengeance, but justice." "There are still those who think like Mox," Kim warned. "Who believe in empire, not confederation." "Yes," Park agreed. "Change will not come easily, but it will come." 3 months passed. The Confederation grew stronger each day. Worlds that had declared independence now joined freely. The former Imperial fleet was divided among all member worlds, with humans training crews in the new technologies. Kim found himself assigned to Earth. As a former Imperial diplomat, his knowledge was valuable to the new government. The first time he saw the blue planet from orbit, he thought of his grandfather's stories. "It's more beautiful than he described," Kim said softly. Commander Han, now his official liaison, nodded. "Wait until you see it up close." Earth was still healing from the old attacks, but the cities had been rebuilt, stronger than before. Green parks grew where once there had been only ruins. The people had not forgotten, but they had moved forward. Kim's first meeting was with survivors of the attacks. He had dreaded this moment, fearing their anger. But they greeted him with surprising warmth. "You helped bring justice," said an elderly woman with burned scars on her face. "That is what matters." 6 months after the announcement of the Galactic Confederation, a formal ceremony was held in orbit around Earth. Ships from all member worlds gathered, a peaceful armada larger than any in history. On the observation deck of the Daejin, Admiral Park stood quietly. He had removed his uniform, wearing simple civilian clothes. His days as a military leader were ending. Soon he would return to teaching, his profession before the attacks. Captain Lee joined him at the window. Together they watched Earth turning below, blue and green and beautiful. "Was it worth the wait?" Lee asked. Park considered the question. 23 years of his life had been dedicated to preparing for this moment. Years of secret work, building ships, developing weapons, training soldiers, all for revenge that never came. 23 years preparing for revenge, Park mused, only to discover something better. Justice without vengeance, Lee nodded. And strength without tyranny, Park added. Below them, Earth continued its eternal dance around the sun. Above, ships from dozens of worlds moved into formation, not for war, but for a celebration of peace. Representatives from all Confederation worlds were arriving for the first official council meeting. Perhaps that's humanity's true power, Park said softly. Not our weapons or our technology, but our capacity to forgive. As if in answer, the ships around them began to light up, one by one, a display of unity visible across the solar system. The stars of a new galaxy shining together.